I think I would start with on behalf of University of Notre Dame, our president, Father Jenkins, our athletic director, Jack Swarbrick, our players, our staff. We're extremely excited to be part of the 2020 ACC Championship Game. It's something that, when we were given this opportunity, we were certainly putting it on our goal sheet as something as a destination for us. Also want to congratulate Dabo once again for a terrific football season. He has his team playing extremely well once again. So congratulations to Clemson University. And we're excited about certainly playing them again. Which certainly was an incredible football game the first time around. I think the fans can look for much of the same in this rematch. So again, really excited about the opportunity to be in the ACC Championship. Our players are. I know our entire Notre Dame fan base is excited about this opportunity. Being on this opportunity doesn't come along very often at Notre Dame for playing for a conference championship. So should be exciting. So with that, Kevin, I'll let you turn it over to questions.
Hey, Coach. There's obviously been a lot made about the first matchup with the absences that Clemson had, Trevor Lawrence, and then the players on defense. I know it's hard to quantify, but how much better do you think they look just having Skalski and Davis and Jones back in the lineup?
Well, Skalski obviously is a quarterback for their defense. So, he certainly makes a difference. And, the other thing he has is, size, so he makes a difference. You have to plan for him, certainly as somebody that, physically has a different makeup as well. So his size, his leadership, certainly is going to make a difference. Jones obviously is got the athletic ability to play, in their defense in a manner that allows them to do more things. But, again, I think when we start to look at one player making a difference, I think we might be reading a little bit too much into it. It's the ability for all 11 players to play at a high level. And if he's playing well, but 3 or 4 other guys aren't playing at the same level, it negates it. Certainly he's going to help in having his leadership, I think, more than anything else on the defensive side of the ball.
Coach, it's a rarity in college football to play somebody twice. Winning the first one, is that an advantage, a disadvantage, or just neutral?
I think it depends on what happens the first time around. This was a double overtime game. Both teams believe that they could have won the football game. Certainly we did. I'm sure Clemson believes they could have won the game. So from that perspective, I think, both teams leave with, feeling of confidence. And look, Clemson's not a team that needs confidence. They've been the king of the ACC for a number of years. So I think in the game that we played, I think both teams got a better sense of who they are. And I don't know that there's an advantage one way or the other. This is still going to come down to the fundamentals and players making plays. There's really good players on both sides of the ball. I just think it's going to be a really closely contested football game. I think it's going to match up the way people think it is.
You mentioned these opportunities don't come around very often for Notre Dame. Of course, they have not ever come around for Notre Dame before. I know Notre Dame fans, and certainly A.D. Swarbrick have said very passionately, we believe in our independence. This is something we want to maintain. And I would not expect it to be any different in 2021. But if sometime down the line they come to you and they say, your personal experience based off of this year, has it changed your thought process any on what the value of independence versus being a part of a league would be in your mind personally after going through this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can talk all you want about being in a conference, but if you're not in the ACC, and we weren't, we were, dipping our toe into it. You really can't talk firsthand about it. We can now. I mean, so it's offered us a different perspective. There's no doubt about it. And, sitting on this call right now at this press conference, getting a chance to play for an ACC championship is certainly the positive of being in a conference. Losing out on, playing some of the traditional rivalries obviously is the negative. So, what's the pluses and minuses of this, comes down to, how we see us as a program moving forward over the foreseeable future. And those are the questions that really, quite frankly, that, Jack Swarbrick is entertaining at a higher level. And I'll give him my feedback, but we've enjoyed this relationship. And, if they come and ask my opinion, I would say that the ACC has been a great relationship for Notre Dame. But independence has been something that is part of who we are in our DNA.
Hey, Brian, I wondered if you could kind of catch us up on what you're looking at center, how Zeke Correll and Josh Lugg are competing, and then just a few of the players you're hoping to get back, Kramer, Jason Adamalola, and Lacey specifically, what their condition is.
Yeah, so, this has really been about getting Zeke back to a position where we feel like he's at 100%. I would say that he's getting really close. He's practiced. We were on the field as I had laid out for you guys Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by Saturday, we all felt that he was really close to being 100%. I think it then becomes a situation where, has he played enough football for us to feel like, with the one game that he played, then got injured versus, Josh playing 2 games, can they both help us at that position? So I think that'll be a game day decision. I think they're both going to continue to get reps at that position, at the center position. And then we'll take that right into game day. Kramer's good to go. He's been taking all the reps at the right guard position. Feel real good about where he is. And Jason as well. Jason's been getting a lot of reps, and he'll be ready to play. We're just rounding him back into game shape. Lacey's much better. As you know, he was slowed a little bit, but we feel really good about the last couple of days. We were banging around pretty good on Saturday, and he came out of it in a really good place. So after talking to our medical staff today, we're in a green light situation with all these players.
Brian, I was curious about, Clemson, and you guys have sort of compared notes over the years. And as you've sort of gotten to more of a regular routine of playing them, this year in particular, if you see the programs as similar, if there are parts of what Dabo has built down there that you feel like apply to what you've built at Notre Dame.
Well, both of them are steeped in a process and building a strong bond within their program as it relates to relationships with their players and amongst the players. And I think that that's very important in having success. So there's some similarities there. Certainly the recruiting to a profile, both programs are looking for somebody that fits into that culture, if you will. And I think that both programs are looking for that kind of student athlete that fits that profile. Look, I mean, I think when you're talking about championship level programs, there's still the ability to look at the nuances of each program. And Dabo has some things that he does that are a little bit different than we do at Notre Dame. But by and large, it's about establishing a winning culture with players that are committed to that and are held accountable to it, quite frankly. And I think that that's probably where the similarities are the most between the two programs.
Hey, Brian, we've asked you a lot about what you think about the differences in the defenses between this year and 2018 as far as their makeup, but what similarities or lack thereof do you notice in their MO of just being able to get stops and keep teams off the scoreboard?
Well, I think you just need to look at, last night, North Carolina rushed for over 500 yards. They had, you know, they didn't have that kind of production running against us. I don't know exactly how many yards they had rushing. You guys probably know better than I do. But it wasn't nearly the numbers, 125 yards maybe did they have. I know Clemson was less than 100 yards rushing. So, look, this is centered around stingy run defense and making teams become one-dimensional. And it then gives you the opportunity to dictate down and distance. And we've been really good on third down. We're one of the best third down defenses in the country because, we get you into some predictable situations. So it starts up front. It starts up with the ability to be really good against the run. And, that's where this defense has really been consistent, over the last 4 years.
Brian, thanks. Brian, I wonder if you could sum up how you changed and maybe how philosophy changed after 2016, the 4-8 season, and how you got to this place.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, it's still, if we look at 16, it still was my 25th year, going close to my 25th year, and I think everybody has to be able to, be humble as a leader and look at what areas they need to grow in. And look, I ask our players to be humble, and the head coach can't be humble and look at where he needs to get better. You're not going to get that from your players. And I thought an area that I needed to do a better job was the relationships with our players and getting them to play to their very best. And we lost a lot of games late. We weren't able to close. And a lot of that had to do with our players' inability to have the kind of confidence and the level of confidence necessary in themselves and then me instilling it in them. So I needed to spend more time with our players. So I pushed myself back from, a lot of the time in play calling and the X's and O's and spent much more time with our players and their mental performance. And it proved to be the right decision.
And I wonder if you see any irony in what you came to Notre Dame as offensively and what Notre Dame is now offensively. I don't even know if irony is the right word, but go ahead.
Well, I think, offensive, football is still about players over plays. I've always believed that. And, what I think I've, tried to do from an offensive standpoint is always match my offense to the players that I've had. And quite frankly, when I came to Notre Dame, I was trying to fit an offense to the players that were here in place. And what we've done is we've evolved to that level where we want to be by the recruiting of the kind of players that they're going to obviously be here and develop with our offense and that structure. So you can see it's built on a strong running game, the ability to still spread the field, but to be physical at the line of scrimmage. And it's matching what our philosophy is on defense. Stop the run the football, be really good on third down in controlling the football and then getting off the field, controlling points and scoring points, on our end. And I think that sounds like a simple philosophy, but sometimes people are chasing their tail trying to get to that. And we seem to have gotten to that point where we all know who we are and what our identity is.
Great. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach. How does your team feel about your positioning going into this game related to the playoffs? Do you feel like you're in regardless of what happens? What's the attitude within the program about the pressure, if any, on you guys related to the playoffs?
Haven't talked about it. we really, it's not even something that we consider at this point. We'll talk about that next week. We got our hands full with really focusing on this ACC championship. So the playoffs take care of themselves. We can't control that. I mean, for us, look, will our players understand that if they win, that they're going to be in the playoffs? Sure, they get that, but they don't go around thinking, oh, if we lose, that's just not how we think. We're not wired that way. We're wired to think that we're going to win the football game, and we expect to win the football game. So they don't go around thinking, hey, we're going to lose the game, then we're probably still in the playoffs. We're thinking about winning the ACC championship. So all of our time, all of our energy is about this game and winning this football game.
It's been a week since you guys have played an opponent. How are the guys doing? How's preparation working towards the game next Saturday?
Well, it's what we've mapped out, right? We gave them a little bit of time off. We've spent some time in the weight room. I think maintaining your strength is very, very important. We had some things that we needed to work on fundamentally. We spent a day of practice that had nothing to do with Clemson. It had to do with just, I call it lab work, things that you do in the laboratory. You experiment a little bit, you work on some things. So we had some lab work to do. And then Thursday, we introduced Clemson. So spent some extra time on special teams, gadget plays, defending gadget plays, some tricks, exotics, things of that nature. And then Friday and Saturday, we got to work on some team time on Clemson. And then Saturday, we tackled a little bit. You can't go too far away without having some tackling. And I don't like to go 2 weeks without tackling. So I think, our preparation now, our guys had today off. We'll come back tomorrow with some walkthroughs and be in a normal game week situation. Our guys like that routine.
Brian, you mentioned in response to Pete's question, recruiting to a profile. Jeremiah was not a terribly highly recruited prospect out of Bethel. What attracted him and brought you to Virginia to recruit him? And can you describe his trajectory into an All-American candidate?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think, we're looking for guys that certainly have what we believe the ability to be developed as well. They're not necessarily ready-made. And in his instance, we feel like, he's a young man that we could develop his talent level. We want guys that love to play the game. I got to see a passion. We loved his, and when we spent some time with him, we loved the fact that there was a real love for the game and a passion for it. It's their job to motivate themselves. It's not, we hear this phrase all the time that, your guys weren't motivated. What's wrong? We recruit guys that have that love and that passion and that intrinsic motivation. And that's another thing that he had. So, those are some of the intangibles that don't show up on the recruiting sheet that we look for. So you're never dealing with teams that play up and play down and can play in a consistent manner and can win, 16 consecutive games or win 25 in a row, and so that's really what Clemson looks for, I'm sure, in terms of those traits. And that's what we look for in him and saw that in him. And that was really attractive.
Hey, Brian, obviously I don't want you to give away trade secrets here or anything like that, but when you found out you weren't going to be playing against Trevor Lawrence, how much did that adjust? Did you adjust sort of the defensive game plan that you had for that? Or do you expect that or did you kind of just go about doing more or less exactly what you would have done had Trevor been on the field as well?
Well, it was actually more difficult, quite frankly, because we weren't sure what DJ's skill set was across the board. We didn't have enough film to really evaluate him. And as you know, he threw for over 400 yards. He was outstanding. We kind of sensed that maybe he wasn't the same kind of runner, but we had to respect his ability to run, read option and certainly cue runs. So you're right. I mean, we really tried to defend Trevor and then obviously have some things in there that a young quarterback may not have seen before. But that didn't work so much. he did pretty good.
Talk about you played against Travis Etienne this time around. I know it was a double overtime game. You kept him from he got one touchdown, but only 28 yards rushing in the overtime. What did you guys do to lock him from going to explode? Because he is a very good runner and a good receiver at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, he's an outstanding player. You have to know where he is. You have to have your run fits down. You have to be disciplined. I mean, it's a team defensive effort, and we're going to have a similar one. He's an explosive football player that we have such great respect for. We've tried to defend him, and obviously, when you put your game plan together, the first thing you got to think of is how you're going to slow him down. So tremendous respect for him. We're going to have to get him on the ground and make sure that he doesn't get out in the second level. If he gets out in the second level, he's a problem. So you got to get him before he gets started. And that means controlling the line of scrimmage. And so it starts with controlling the line of scrimmage and being short tacklers. That's where it starts.
Hey, Brian, just to follow up on David's question, with obviously getting the win, you're celebrating and feeling good after beating Clemson, but was there any concern just defensively with what DJ was able to do, passing for over 400 yards, and any changes you feel like need to be made after his performance?
Yeah, we've got to play better. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we did a good job against the run. They clearly are a talented football team, and we played pretty well in the first half. They made some plays in the third quarter, and this thing got into double overtime. That's what's going to happen when you have two really good football teams going against it. But yeah, there's some things that we're going to have to do much better in the passing game. We're going to have to continue to obviously keep their running game in check. But to the level of giving up 400 and plus yards, no, we cannot afford to do that again. There's no doubt about that.
Brian, when you have a year like this, people are going to want to talk to your assistants. And I know there's been a lot out there about Clark Lee. Wondered if you could tell us how he's handled that particular situation and how your team has maybe tried to keep that from becoming a potential distraction.
Yeah, Clark's a professional. I mean, he was in it last year with the Boston College job, and he'll be in it. He's in it with the Vanderbilt job. And, again, if it's the right fit for him, he's in it for the long haul here at Notre Dame. So it's not going to disrupt what he does in his preparation for the championship game and hopefully moving forward. Right. That's a given. You're dealing with professionals that recognize that when they make a commitment here, they're committing to seeing it through. So I'm not really concerned about it. I know our players aren't as well. And as it relates to a distraction, don't see that that's going to be a distraction at all.
Brian, just following up a little bit on Jeremiah, the touchdown he had against Clemson, was that an instinctive play? And if so, how or when did those instincts really start to develop?
Well, Jeremiah, has fast hands, fast feet, fast eyes. I mean, everything that he does with a suddenness and a quickness, and can do these things that are, bang bang, if you will, in terms of making things happen. And he plays at a very fast level, and he just fires that way in terms of seeing things and reacting. And so that's what makes him a unique player. We've had other players that don't react quite as fast as he does, but what makes the great players is certainly this unique ability to fire fast. Their central nervous system just sees it, and they can fire quickly, and he can recognize things in that manner. He just recognized it, was quick to it, and was able to make a big play in that situation.
Hey, Coach, you had mentioned earlier in your conversation, answering a question about Clemson, you said you didn't think the defense played that well. You also said that earlier when you played Florida State, and in both instances, you responded with two straight really, really outstanding performances on defense in the games that followed. Was that just about making adjustments, Or is there something from an attitude standpoint that kind of gets your defense really fired up when they feel like they're not on top of their game?
Well, our guys have an immense amount of pride, and it starts with Clark, and obviously it trickles down throughout the ranks in terms of all the coaches and how we present that to them. We're not attacking our guys, but as I said earlier, I mean, our guys are humble workers. I mean, they're coachable, and when they look at those things that they need to improve on, they spend the week in preparation improving on, because on Saturdays they want to go get it, they want to attack it, they want to be aggressive, and they want to be the best defense in the country. So I just think it's the way that they take things, and so when we present it to them in a manner that allows them to prepare in the right way on those areas that need to be improved upon, they go to work during the week, they work on them, and we see those improvements the following week.
Brian, I wanted to follow up on something you said last week about Tommy Rees, where it was the teaching ability that allowed him to succeed. In 30 years of hiring and working with successful assistants, what is it that makes a good teacher, or makes a good teacher be able to pick that up in short order like Tommy seemed to be able to?
Well, there's a number of different layers, but I would say that it starts with understanding that there are different forms of communication. It's not just verbal communication; it's the ability to communicate through different forms, and recognizing how you can reach somebody through different forms of communication. And Tommy understands that. And I could see that early on. And I don't just mean players, I mean coaches and staff alike. I mean, he just does a really good job of communicating what's important, and he doesn't waste time on things that will bog you down. He is able to, in a large degree, get to the point and eliminate a lot of miscommunication that occurs sometimes. Look, the art of communication is steeped in its ability to reach people in many different forms, and that's at the strength of what Tommy does, and I could see that early on.